Good morning, good morning, good morning, folks. What's left of it, anyway. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, a little bit of a rant. So, in the rush to go ahead and condemn Manson for things which have been absolutely not proven to this date, apparently, we have leftists who support Believe All Women dusting off some old 90s tropes about Manson. And what I find absolutely hilarious is they are going to use the tropes that the conservatives created for him during the 90s. You see, this is what happens when you're a little too good at your job. When you create a persona and you perform it so believably, people will then say, well, he calls himself the Antichrist, he must be. Yeah. We have a whole lot of neurotypicals out there who are not very familiar with the concept of masking. I don't know if Manson's one of us or not, but it is because of the concept of masking that I have used throughout the entirety of my life. I can tell that there is a marked difference between the fictional persona that is Marilyn Manson and the actual dude, which is Brian Warner, folks. You are basing your condemnation of a man based off of a fictional persona that this person created. Do you all not see the lunacy here? Let me be more specific. The persona that he has created. This is my opinion. I don't know if he intentionally did it or not, but it's a mirror of society. It's that forcing the public to stare in the mirror at its true image. Hold on, that would be my groceries. Coffee. Coffee is necessary for life, folks. And I do love the Dunkin'. This stuff is fabulous. Fabulous. I will shill it for free. My point is, the persona that Marilyn Manson is a fictional persona created by a man by the name of Brian Warner. That image has come to be almost a mere reflection of the darker, more narcissistic, more vain, more impulse-driven society. The dark parts that everybody tries to hide, but everyone knows is actually there. It is the removing of the curtain off of the portrait of Dorian Gray, if you get my meaning here. Brian Warner is simply a very highly intelligent individual who has crafted this persona. Which means when he does interviews as Marilyn Manson, when he writes books as Marilyn Manson, it's about the persona not the man who plays him. To give you some context here, it's very similar to when, I go, and you've heard me call it before, when I go out and play the doll. When I go out and give society what it wants to see. The perfect makeup, the hair the way they like it on me, the clothes they expect me to wear, the small talk, which I absolutely detest. It's a persona. It's an image. I've always called it playing the doll. It's not the real me. It is a persona that was created by me. See where we're going with here, folks? Which makes it ridiculous that you are using the persona, and then the insanity that the conservatives have, in which they used his persona to basically paint him as Satan, and are now dusting it off and putting it back out there for the new generations as though Generation X still isn't here and can see your nonsense. And they're trying to play it again. I'm going to ask you, I know it's difficult because you all weren't raised to think for yourselves, but just go with me on this. The person that is Brian Warner and the persona that is Marilyn Manson, it's a persona. It's a role. Like when I go out there and I play the doll, that is not Tiffany. That's the doll. It's a role. It's a mask. To use the things that he said while in his persona as a means to declare that he must be guilty is insane. And that's really all I'm going to say on it. Eventually, whenever I have some time, I may just do it right there on Easter just to piss people off because I'm, kind of in that mood. I am going to do a video on it because, and before any of you idiots come on here and sit there and tell me it's because I'm a fan, I'm actually really not. Do I find Brian Warner an incredibly intelligent, sympathetic individual whose intelligence I respect? Yes. But I'm a thrash metal girl, folks. It's my brother's fault. He got me hooked when I was young, and it hasn't left me since. I've liked a few of his songs, sure, but big and large, thrash metal. Okay? Motorhead, Metallica, Megadeth. You see? Alright, now to the disclosures. In the description box, you're going to find the link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It is written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so please read that article and share it on all your social media. We also have linked in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to the GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually has the balls to see through with their threat. We also have linked in there the Ozark's first article in regards to the Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI. You've got another, a doctor, still on the premises with full access up to the boys, up multiple substantiated. Again, claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault, the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy carrying out his grudges against drag queens, lying and photoshopping crap to actually do his job and protect the kids from the real, actually proven pedophiles out here in this state. And I don't even know what to say at this point about our governor. I don't know if an intervention would help at this point. He may be too far gone. So please read that article, share it on all your social media, and send help. All right? We got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, folks, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, all right? All right, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity on occasion, and we do speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this channel, very obviously, folks, parental supervision is very much advised, all right? All right, trigger warning. We are about to once again descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear gaslighting, victim blaming, pseudoscience, and lies. You're going to hear abuse and torture apologencia, and every bit of it is coming from an individual with a massive ego and even larger God complex. So, folks, remember, this is the individual who says he's right because he has a paper of a study that he and the people he pays says is right, and he's got a graph to prove it. Just keep that in the back of your head. This is the level of egotism and rampant stupidity that we're dealing with here, okay? All right. By the way, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that one. Even Paul has a hard time wrapping his brain around that one. Because, yeah, no.
Well, when I did some digging to try and find out why it wasn't peer-reviewed by people outside of his private circle, all other reputable doctors in his field refused to peer review it because it would have required really unethical actions on their part as far as the treatment of test subjects goes.
And then we come again back to the point that it violates medical ethics to cite yourself as a source for a study. All right, so let's go back to where we left off yesterday. This is going to be a testimony from Ed Ferry. This is a testimony that Dr. Matthew Israel is going to try and tell you that we lied about, that we misrepresented, that we are trying to misguide you in order to victimize poor JRC. I want you to hold what Paul just said in the back of your minds here while I read this. And yes, doctor, I am going to read it in its entirety. I am going to say from the beginning, so you cannot sit there and tell me that I misrepresented you in any way, that this individual is speaking in the favor of the JRC. I'm also, as an individual who has worked in this field in one capacity or another for over a decade, while going through this, I'm going to piece it apart and give my educated opinion on it. Whether Dr. Matthew Israel likes it or not, this is not lying. It's not manipulation. It's not whatever idiot fucking comments he's going to put on it. And again, I apologize for my language. I'm trying to watch it, but mother of God, this man is triggering. Says, "Hi, my name is Ed Fury. I'm 26 years old. Prior to coming to the JRC, I was in many psychiatric hospitals and other programs on a load of medications that didn't work for me. I used to open doors in moving vehicles, get out of my seat during moving vehicles. I used to aggress. I used to bite myself. I used to hit others. I used to headbang my head. I used to do many things to hurt myself, but I came to JRC in December of 1997. Okay, I'm going to stop you here. Ed, let me ask you a question. Did you ever think on why you were doing these things? This is the thing that, as someone who's worked in this field, I am not going to stop bringing home to you. These things do not come out of nowhere. They are not for no reason. Nor are they the attention seeking, manipulative things that ABA tells you that they are. There's always a reason for these types of behaviors. Simple punishment, while not dealing with what is causing the impulses to have these types of behaviors, doesn't help, folks. As a child of Gen X, the last generation that people allowed to be spanked, I'm not going to lie to you here. Punishment without dealing with the root issue does nothing. Its after effects only last as long as that fear remains in one's memory. Hence how you read that how some of us kids in Gen S got up to some really stupid, dangerous crap back in the day. Alright? So my question to Ed would simply be this. While you were at JRC and under their treatment and care, did anyone, literally anyone, seek to help you to work out for yourself what was causing these behaviors and what you would need in order to help minimize them? Because I'm going to guess not. Dr. Matthew Israel wants to punish us and then force us to be his romanticized idea of normal. This romanticized idea of normal is something that is actually prevalent throughout the medical model. Dr. Matthew Israel, he's not alone in this concept. What he does to try to force out his idea of normal onto these kids, were they happening to prisoners of war, would bring out the fury of the entire world, and we all know it. But let's move on. It's always going to bother me as someone who's worked in this field, whose friends are psychologists and psychiatrists, neurologists and specialists from all walks of life. And having had these conversations, what bothers me about this, and even ABA as a whole, is this absolute resistance to the concept of getting to the root of what's causing these behaviors. Because they think they already know. But they don't, folks. They don't. And therefore, it remains undealt with. And then they act shocked when we begin to act out again, and even act out worse than we did previously. It's a messed up circle, folks. But let's move on to here, okay? Since coming to the JRC, when I came to the JRC in December of 1997, I was in an isolated room due to my behaviors because I was unsafe to be around other people. I was in a restricted residence with numerous staff. I was still getting restrained constantly, and I went on the skin shock treatment, also known as the GED. Again, if you notice, even through his testimony, there is not one mention of any of the so-called professionals at the JRC working with this individual to find out what was causing the behaviors. Not one. Not one, folks. They didn't try that. They just immediately put him on the shock device. You see what I'm saying here, right? And my behaviors just started to decrease over time. Now, my life changed dramatically. I'm able to do a lot of things now that I weren't able to do before. Last year, I went to Florida, and I'm planning the same thing this year by plane, and that wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have help from the skin shock treatment. No, son, that's the lie they want you to believe. That's the lie. When you can convince someone that the torture that they're receiving, how they're being tortured, how they're being deliberately triggered, how they're being constantly caused pain, and that you convince them that they actually need you to do this to them, or else they wouldn't be able to go out there. That is the most psychotic, insidious lie of them all. It really is. Imagine this kid about a good 10 to 20 years from now when that device is removed. It's not independence. It's not what they convinced you it was, Ed. They're not doing this for their own good any more than a parent slugging a kid in the face and saying that they earned it was their fault. Okay? These people failed you every single step of the way. No one has helped you in this school to address not just your behavior, but from where that behavior is stemming. That is wrong. They have wronged you. I hope you realize that one day. Because I don't care how bad your behaviors are. When you step into a place that calls itself a school and medical center, and you receive torture instead of the treatment by professionals that you expect, that's not help. Any more than these scared straight teen industry torture halls are any help. But let's move on here, shall we? I have independence now, and I have a school job where I work in the Big Reward Star, which is a rewarding environment for students to can come into. And they have games in there, and a pool table, and a popcorn machine. And in the last 12 months, I had zero major behaviors. Again, son, you are still under their power. You are still on their device. This is not independence. Working for the same place that has tortured you for years and brainwashed you into believing that this is what you deserve. That's not independence. That's not freedom. Now, granted, if you look around me, look around my closed field chair, my little lights, and I got some bags everywhere. I gotta clean. This may not look much to you, but it's mine. I take care of all of it. I cover the rent, I cover the bills, I cover my med costs. I do all of this without a machine on me to shock me every time I have a so called behavior. I am able to manage all of it and even have many interpersonal relationships without the fear of being hurt. That, although maybe not glamorous, that is independence. What they are forcing you to do is a mockery of it. But let's read the rest of this here. That's a big change for me, having like countless behaviors, aggressions, getting restrained frequently, like almost every day. Or like, like I actually much better, and it's a pleasure for me to go to home visit with my dad, and I'm just very satisfied with the improvement I have accomplished since going on the GED device, and I appreciate the help the JERC's given me. And I feel that if you take this option of the skin shock away, then you're not going to give people the choice, and a lot of lives won't be changed the way my life has been changed because it's great treatment. No, it's not, hon. They have turned your life into a mockery of independence. Ruling through fear, my boy. Listen to me. Ruling through fear is not the path to independence. The fact that that device keeps you from those behaviors, but only while you're under the threat of it, this is not treatment. To tell us that it's life changing for these behaviors to go away from you, I believe that. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But what's the price, son? What's the price? Do you feel, having gone through this treatment, that the cause of these behaviors has been adequately dealt with? Do you feel, with this treatment, that you will one day be able to get off the device and that these behaviors will not return? Because I can tell you, they will. Because they were never properly dealt with in the first place. Your life, as you know it now, as a mockery of independence. You know how they always say it gets worse before it gets better? This is especially true in healing from trauma. And I do speak from my own experience as well as someone who's worked this field. It doesn't change lives. It destroys them. And no pseudo mockery of independence that the JRC gives you is ever going to convince me otherwise. That isn't a life, Ed. It's a mockery of one. Now let's finish here. In the MDRI, authors were willing to falsely quote taken from the JRC website, which can be so easily checked. One wonders what kind of liberties they took with the material collected by the persons who made anonymous allegations. Accuracy could not be checked. Here we go again. See, Dr. Matthew, as individuals who've worked in this field, the same as you, we are allowed to present the testimony in its entirety, as I just did. We are also allowed to state from the very beginning, before we go into the statement, that this is a statement that is actually in favor of the JRC. We are then also able to go through said statement and offer our educated opinions on what they're saying. We are allowed to tell you why we think it's still torture, in spite of the fact that the student who wrote it is supposed to be in favor. I can also do, doctor, and I know you hate this, remark upon the fact that there are many sentences left out of this testimony that you so-called presented in its entirety. And having been a teenager, as well as designed transition services in my state for teenagers, when you hear or see something that goes along the lines of I, to the point that it derails the entirety of the rest of the sentence, something's going on there. I'm going to go ahead and close out. No, I'm not actually. None of the things that I just mentioned is in any way falsely presenting the statement made by the kid. By presenting a statement in its entirety, so-called, as I can obviously see that you've edited it, even stating that the person who wrote the testimony was in favor of the JRC, and then it's still explaining, even while going through the testimony, why it's a big sack of garbage, does not mean that we are falsely presenting the statement. You see how that works, doctor? We didn't lie. We didn't cut anything out. We didn't infer anything as to what we thought the child meant. That's not misdirection. That's not lies. That's not being false. And for the love of God, the 90s called, and they would like to leave the whole argument about the true meaning of what the word is back in the 90s with the Monica Lewinsky situation where it belongs. We're going to go ahead and close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time, everyone. As always, we hope you have a good one. I will see you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.